We need to eliminate that cult. It's just amazing how incredibly obvious it all is. And it's just, I mean, I know the system doesn't want us to think that people like me are making headway, but we are. You know, the amount of anti-Israel action, energy is really skyrocketing. And it's only a matter of time before people stop falling for the idea of Israel itself and look at the cult that is behind the idea of Israel. You know, Netanyahu is just as bad as it gets. He's a piece of shit. And everything he says is just a lie or a manipulation or just bullshit. But you're really starting to see this just tremendous, even Piers Morgan, who is an absolute shill piece of shit, you know, Israeli puppet, who is saying what, he's supposed to say. I believe that they realize that there is sort of a turning point happening and that they need to get in front of it. So they have their puppets starting to say certain things. You know, how can every single, I really hate calling them journalists, but reporter, how can every single reporter ignore the fact that the Jays are killing children, 100 children per day at least, killing or severely injuring? You know, and they're all of those people, all of those reporters aren't real people. By the way, sorry about that. You know, I'm not afraid of this. I'm trying to share this on as many levels as I can. You know, I want you to bilge. I want opposition. I want to hear some Jays. God, I'd love to hear some Jays come through. Yeah. Wrong. What's up, Dickie? This was your last day to sleep in. I'm waking you up early tomorrow. Why? Because you got to go to school the next day, and you can't sleep in and then stay up super late. So, man, I wish you were still sleeping. I'm sorry.
No, Dad, we're not going to school.
Tuesday they're going.
Why aren't you going Monday?
Jenny was prettier and they got there.
Oh. You know, this is a nightmare. And if you don't think it is, you're probably a Jay. I mean, you know, you just hear these, like, the arguments that they make. Because I'm on all sorts of platforms, constantly making comments, constantly expressing myself. And the comments that come back to me are just, it's just embarrassing. It's like, it's stupid. You know, any respect I'm supposed to have for these people, it's gone. It doesn't exist because they're so dumb. You know, somebody said, you must be an angry person to say these things. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm angry. Hearing about, you know, genocide and rape. Did you guys not see the video of the Palestinian getting raped by Israeli soldiers? Did you not see that at the detention camp? Like they formed a shield to block the view and then they raped him right out in the open? Did you guys not see this? Did you guys not see the Knesset having, you know, arguments that they should be allowed to rape Palestinians? It's everywhere. Let's see. Let's see if I can actually find anything. Because it's really hard with the Jew-controlled Google. Let's see. Rights probe alleges sexual violence against Palestinians by Israeli forces used as method of war to rape. Israel has increasingly employed sexual, reproductive, and other forms of gender-based violence against Palestinians as part of a broader effort to undermine their right to self-determination. Those kind of statements are just stupid. Speaking in Geneva, the human rights lawyer said that the frequency, prevalence, and severity of sexual and gender-based crimes perpetuated across the OPT leads the Commission to conclude that sexual and gender-based violence is increasingly used as a method of war by Israel to destabilize, dominate, oppress, and destroy the Palestinian people. And because they're sick. It just so happens to be the people that do all the raping of children in you know, in Hollywood and all that. They just happen to be them too. Isn't that weird? Don't you think it's strange? But see, I read you something the other day, twice now. An article put out by an Israeli newspaper or an Israeli website. Israel, I don't remember what the fuck that last, but where they talk about how, you know, the sexual abuse, the rape, the you know, the ritual bullshit. This is what they do to their own children. I mean, as I tell you fucking every day, Metitza Bippa is the oral suction after circumcision. And it's the most important mitzvah, it's the most important commandment in their fucking religion, in their cult, is the circumcision, is Brit Milah, followed by Metitza Bippa. And it's like, this is one of their proud things. They're proud to say, yeah, we do this. Yeah, we this is our number one thing. And this is what they do to their own babies. Yeah, I don't understand what part of that makes sense to you. And like I say, I keep getting these dumbass comments like, oh, Israel has been bombed and attacked. They're just not supposed to do anything about it. Show me. I stand by the statement that no Israelis were killed on October 7th or taken hostage. And I have zero proof to the contrary. There are a couple of staged videos where the more time has passed, the more obvious it is that it's staged. You know, the fact that the one guy, the one hostage, has been supposedly filmed since being kidnapped, and then multiple times after which he's the guy that they show over and over again. Do you realize how, like, that's just not real? That's not how that works. But I wish more than anything a bunch of piece of shit Jays would come through here and defend themselves. You know, they're always so big and bad when they're attacking a woman, or when it's, you know, it's a large group of them and it's one or a couple of opposition. Then they're big badasses in their little penguin suits, you know, spitting on Christians. When asked what they can do about the problem of Jay spitting on Christians, it was either Ben-Gvir or Smotrich said, well, Jays have been spitting on Christians for centuries. So that was it. That was the end of it. There was no need to stop it. And the thing that you always have to remember in this narrative is just think about if it was the other way around. Israel is committing genocide based on the claim that around 1,100 people in Israel were killed. Not even Israelis, just people in Israel. They're justifying, you know, almost 2 years later, everyday crime, war crime, bombing, and all that, because they say around 1,100 were killed. That's their justification. They've killed hundreds of thousands of people based on a claim of 1,200, around 1,100. They don't even give you the exact number. So imagine if it was the other way around. Imagine if it was, you know, 100,000 Jays had been killed. Imagine the outcry that would take place. You know, people keep talking about Trump over there buying silence from the Arab countries and, you know, all these others. But what Arab country, what Muslim country has come to the defense of the Palestinians so far? The Houthis, maybe a little bit. But other than that, nothing. Saudi Arabia has done nothing. Saudi Arabia claimed forever that the reason why they don't sign the normalization deal, you know, why they don't work with Israel is because of the treatment of the Palestinians. And yet, a genocide has been going on for at least a year and a half, and they have nothing to say. They're nowhere to be seen. Where the fuck is Saudi Arabia? If Saudi Arabia got involved, Israel would be fucked. If Iran got involved, Israel would be fucked. And yet, for some reason, none of these countries are stepping up. It really makes you wonder what's happening. What goes on at the highest levels behind the scenes? What makes me wonder that? I don't know about you. Boy, my feed is being pretty fucked with today, don't you think? We'll give it another 5 minutes. If it doesn't start working out, I guess we'll have to reset it. At this point, I'm almost like embarrassed to be considered a human. Imagine if God, I hate using this because I don't believe in aliens. But imagine if alien came down and they were like, all right, we're part of the international order, the intergalactic order, and we want to, investigate the people of Earth to see if they're worth, if their humanity, if their goodness is worth bringing them aboard. How do you think we would explain Israel? How do you think we would explain the J cult in itself? I mean, this shit is insane. And it's crazy because like where does this end? Am I going to sit here and talk about this shit for the rest of my life? Watching the worst of the worst happen? Or am I going to get arrested for talking about it? What's going to happen here? There's no resolution that makes any sense here. The only acceptable resolution is elimination of the cult. Israel has no fucking right to be there. Oh, we have a right to self-determination and all this other bullshit. No, you don't. Not on the backs of other people, not on the lives of other people. But let's go back to the whole raping thing. Member of the Commission of Inquiry on the Occupied Palestinian. Of course, it's not going to let me watch it, right?
This morning, we published a report titled More Than a Human Can Bear, dealing with Israel's systematic use of sexual, reproductive and other forms of gender-based violence since 7 October 2023. Our report finds that Israel has increasingly employed sexual, reproductive and other forms of gender-based violence against Palestinians as part of a broader effort to undermine their right to self-determination. It also concludes that Israel has carried out genocidal acts through the systematic destruction of sexual and reproductive healthcare facilities. The report documents a broad range of violations perpetrated against Palestinian women, men, girls and boys across the occupied Palestinian territory since 7 October 2023 that constitutes a major element in the ill treatment of Palestinians and are part of the unlawful occupation and persecution of Palestinians as a group.
I mean, how is that so prominent? How is that such well-known shit and nothing's happening? It's the part all of you fucking Trumpanzees, where's your boy in all this? Why are you all so fucking quiet about this? You can't even say, well, it has nothing to do with the United States, so I don't care. Because it does. Our tax dollars are being stolen left and right to fund this bullshit. There's no questioning that we're all involved and responsible. The United States is responsible for this shit. Well, looks like I'm going to have to reset because this shit ain't working. Oh, it is Saturday. So, I mean, it is the Sabbath, so a lot of the bot profiles aren't going to be here today. Previous reports have covered in detail the terror attacks on the Israeli villages and towns on October 7th and 8th by Hamas-led Palestinian armed fighters that killed around 1,250 people now and left more than 250 taken as hostages back to Gaza. See, again, it's funny how they word shit. They don't say Israelis were killed. They never say Israelis were killed. They always say people. But the thing that's consistently, conveniently forgotten is that Israel claimed to have killed around 1,500 Hamas in Israel almost immediately. So how did that happen? And it's their way of, like, they're telling you the truth. Around 1,250 people were killed, but they weren't. Not Israelis. Let's reset. We'll try again.